Hi, welcome to Keeping a Notebook, Day 25 and National Poetry Month, Day 13. I'm Amy Ludwig Vanderwater. Glad you're here. Here is a different view of the very photogenic Betsy the writing camper. If you look behind her, you can see a tiny bit of one of our beehives all wrapped in plastic for the winter. Not for long. 2020 is my 11th year of writing a poem each day of National Poetry Month. I always write around a different theme. For this year's poetry project, I have decided to introduce surprise. Each April day, I will share a poem's can phrase about writing poetry. I will roll 3 word dice. If a die rolls blank, I will not re-roll it. I will write a poem inspired by 1, 2, or all 3 of the face-up words. Today's Roll the Dice poetry chat is titled Poems Can List.
It is time to roll the dice. I will choose this one, and this one. Give them a roll. That before who? That before who? Hello, dear ones. I call you dear ones today because it is the birthday of Lee Bennett Hopkins, my dear, generous, wise mentor who passed away this year. I have a tattoo in his honor and memory on my arm. You may have noticed it. It says Good Books, Good Times, LBH. And Lee was a kind and very brilliant mentor to many of us who write children's poetry. If you look him up, you will learn so much. If you go to the library someday and look for his books, again, you will be moved and taken to many places by his many books. Today is day 13 of National Poetry Month. Happy birthday to Lee. And we carry on with our Roll the Dice project. It's day 25 of Keeping a Notebook. And our words are that, before, and who. And so our chat today is titled Poems Can List. And this is actually one of the simplest things that poems can do. And I thought I would probably write about listing in one of our first few days, but I didn't. So here we are now. It just sometimes what happens is when the dice roll, the poem wants to be written, and then I find the technique to match the dice. That's how it's been rolling this month. So today we are talking about how poems can list. And I took the words and I jotted them as I have been on the top, that, before, and who. I didn't have really anything to say about that. Before, I wrote before Little Mouse was all grown up, what did she do? I jotted some things. Maybe she skipped rope or drew with chalk, play hide and seek. And then I had questions about who involving Little Mouse. Who is Little Mouse? Who loves Little Mouse? Who does Little Mouse love? And then I wrote, maybe Little Mouse is a widow or an older mouse living alone. And everybody loves her because she does kind things. She leaves oatmeal cookies in the mailbox for the mailman. She delivers berries to older mice. So this was just thinking. And then again, you can see the alphabet here because I did play with a little bit of rhyme. And here's what I ended up writing. It came out as a list. When you hear it, you will also hear rhyme because a poem can do more than one thing at a time. So today, this poem does rhyme. I did not plan to rhyme it initially. I just planned to make a list of things that Little Mouse might do in one day, almost as if it were a journal entry, but not in her voice. So at the moment, it's titled Today. She sewed 3 masks for busy nurses, baked 2 nut breads, 1 to share, cleaned her closet, painted flowers, played a game of solitaire, did the dishes, wrote a letter, took a stroll in evening air, and stared up at Orion. So each line of this is just something she did. She sewed masks, she baked nut breads, she cleaned her closet, she painted flowers. It does rhyme. It didn't have to rhyme. I ended up really wanting to play with rhyme, but the rhymes do make sense. But you will notice the end played a game of solitaire, did the dishes, wrote a letter, took a stroll in evening air, and stared up at Orion. That last line does not rhyme with any of the others. And so in that way, I broke the pattern. And if you make a list poem, you certainly don't need to rhyme. But if you make a list, you might choose to say one thing at the end that's a little surprising. So if I was, or that changes the pattern in some way. So if I wrote about my dog Callie and I wrote about all the things she likes, and each line had, she likes to play fetch, she likes to cuddle, she likes to have treats, she likes bones, and then at the end I might say, but she doesn't like thunder, right? So I change the end. Sometimes a list poem, people call this, you've heard this a lot maybe before, a list with a twist, and that helps me. That like sticks in my mind. So I originally was just going to end and took a stroll in evening air, and then I really just wanted her to look up at my favorite constellation, Orion. So I added that last line knowing that it wouldn't rhyme and liking that it didn't rhyme. So I'm not sure if this will stay exactly as it is now, but here it is. And we are thinking about how poems can list. So you could think of anything, if you wanted, related to these words or other words, and write what we call a list poem. And if you have any poem books in your house, go ahead and, or you can just, peruse around the internet if you're doing that, and you could just find poems and read some and say, oh gosh, is this one a list poem where everything on a line somehow goes together in a list with other things in that same poem? So again, happy birthday to Lee. Hello and goodbye to you, my dear ones. I wish you a good day 13 of National Poetry Month. I very much look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and peace to you.
Today's words, that, before, and who, could have led me in many directions. I considered writing where who she was before. I considered writing who loves her, who she loves, but I ended up writing about Little Mouse's Day. Today's poem does not use any of our 3 words, but it was inspired by who. Knowing what Little Mouse does in a day helps us know who she is. There are many ways one might choose to go with these words, that, before, and who. I wish you a good day 13 of National Poetry Month. Remember, words can take you anywhere.